Diego plays a very interesting role in the movie Fresa y Chocolate. He plays the role of some sort of a rebel, and this rebel role is displayed in a couple different ways throughout the movie, using different social norms, views, or expectations set by his environment, the setting of the movie, which in this case is communist Cuba. For one, Diego is a homosexual man, again living in communist or socialist Cuba. The idea of homosexuality was not seen as something that was necessarily normal or traditional for their society and for their expectations, and was therefore somewhat frowned upon by not only the Communist Party but the people who identified with the Communist Party, which, as you can imagine, was a large majority of Cuba. This is further highlighted in Judith Butler's view on societal norms and expectations, where she wonders and questions to what extent our acts are determined for us rather by our place within language and convention. In this sense, Judith Butler is kind of talking about who are we to set some sort of societal norm when everybody in their own mind or in their own views are acting as their normal self. Why can't normal be human? In this sense, Judith Butler is saying that everybody is human and therefore everybody is normal. Diego is a perfect example of this, as he chooses to not let anyone make decisions for him, and instead stays strong enough to fight against both the repression and the looks he might get or the comments that are said about him on almost a daily basis. His society is therefore classified as repressive and very traditional, again, socialist Cuba, traditional in a lot of manners, a lot of ways. But this does not stop Diego from openly displaying his homosexuality. In fact, he goes so far to almost flaunt it, especially when he hits on a young college student named David. It should be noted that David does actively identify within the Communist Party. This rebel status and character role uses his expression and free will to indirectly protest the Communist Party that runs within Cuba. Again, he's indirectly protesting them, not openly stating I don't support the Communist Party, but openly stating that I don't support the idea of repression and I am being repressed for going against what has been labeled as a societal norm, which is heterosexuality. The party goes so far. I'm sorry. Communist Party did not support or condone the idea of homosexuality, of course, as it was something that was seen as non-traditional against, again, the societal norm idea. The party goes so far in these beliefs that they recruit Diego's friend David, and who also just happened to be a previous love interest, but he was able to move on from that. And they wanted David to essentially spy on Diego and just kind of go about his daily life and report back to the Communist Party so that they could get some sort of reason to extradite or kick Diego out against his own will. However, David instead decides to quote unquote betray the Communist Party and their orders by befriending David and actually helping him escape the communist Cuba and start a free life that does not include repression. So he will be welcomed with freedom somewhere else to express himself however he wants to express himself. Diego's role as a rebel is somewhat projected onto David in this sense, as David claims to be loyal to the Communist Party throughout the movie, but instead decides to turn on it and make a choice to help Diego. This comes from a feeling of respect given to Diego from David, which is brought on by Diego's courage to rebel and express himself freely in a society that is as oppressive as communist Cuba was for homosexual men and women, for that matter. Diego represents the role of a rebel through two main aspects. One of these aspects is made very clear and obvious, which is the idea of rebelling against repression by expressing himself as who he is, which is a homosexual man that does not support the Communist Party in that sense. He also represents the figure of a rebel by providing to a loyal member of the Communist Party that expression is a good thing and that it should be encouraged rather than oppressed.